Okay, welcome to video 2. I've taken the liberty with my son and assistant here to go ahead and set up a board. And why are we doing this? Well, several reasons. And unfortunately, we don't have time to explain the particulars of the setup. But this board is going to represent several things. For the start, you've got over here, you've got the people, and over here the government. Or you could say the Jeffersonians and the Federalists, or you could do the whole party thing. I don't think that's a good idea because that's actually much later, and everything has been kind of transformed and turned over on its head. This is well documented. The change of Republican Party into the more conservative party, and vice versa is well-known history. You can go and look up, but basically what we're talking about here are two different ways of looking at the same thing. Now my son has done, he's young, so he's done his best job to set up his board according to some type of logic, and this represents the good person, right? They try to run their life as well as they can, but they don't have time to make everything perfect. Unfortunately, because I represent the side that approaches all money, financials, economics from a professional perspective, and I'm in it to win, I will punish every small mistake. And because he made just one or two early mistakes, the energy, the sure, which is what I was talking about earlier, is already set. Basically, he will lose this game, barring any very, very lucky help that he would get by some kind of grace. Either I make huge mistakes, or I make just enough mistakes and he plays a perfect game from here on out, which is not the current tendency, right? He's already well in trouble. One of the first mistakes he made was he took a pawn, which was a complete ploy. So this is your false flag attack. And here the queen on my side is representing federal bureaucratic power. So like the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, even the CIA, you could say. But the bottom line is you have this very assertive and aggressive power right in the face of the common people. And he's got misaligned structures in the background. Those could be Christian structures, or they could be just general, Occupy Wall Street structures. The bottom line is they're misaligned. And because they're misaligned, he has no power coming towards my position. And I want to emphasize that over time, what would happen is that not only would he start to lose individual pieces and rights, but he would start to lose power pieces. And this would be the marginalization of non-activist judges, of the sheriffs, who are supposed to be the top law enforcement in a county. All these different reasons why over time my position becomes dominant and I become stacked with power pieces, and he becomes dwindled, and if anything just becomes more and more pawns. Now as the game would progress, naturally there would start to be some major deficiencies. I mean, right away I can already, like the CIA, take out his rook here, and I'm in the back door. I don't like that because he's still got a queen. He's still got the Second Amendment over here, right? So I would probably be coming actually the other way. I'd be coming for his First Amendment rights. And these rooks do very well represent journalism, at least true journalism. Now, over time, of course, they start to displace across the board. And I want to emphasize that as time goes on, and us versus them mentality in the country becomes apparent. You have the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, the haves and the have-nots. And so you begin to see everything as a battle of good and evil. And here's where the most important lesson comes in. Pay attention. This is not how they look at it. The New World Order sees the game this way. They want control of both ends of the board. Now, over time, of course, you know, people begin to suspect this. And the energy, the powerful energy moving in is very threatening to this side. And so you're naturally going to get some outliers. So I so happen to have here the underground part of the board, and it has the original pieces. I'll pass it in front so you can see, right? So let's say that we have you know, a guy who's really bold. You say Alex Jones. He just comes out here and sacrifices himself. He just puts himself out there. He's loud. He's abrasive, etc. Now that causes a recoil and a retraction. Now sometimes they'll just the one side will just laugh. And whether you identify as, you know, being, you know, Democrats and Republicans, or the two-party system and the third parties, the bottom line is you have a new energy injected that is changing the vector. And that's going to happen more and more. So you're going to get all these outliers. But they start very small, and this side responds because it's tending towards fascist corporatocracy. It's tending towards technocracy and war in 1984. It's tending towards communism because of its being infiltrated. And over time, it's adding its own pieces. And it's just filling them up as quick as possible. Now, what do we see here? Now we start to see changes in the political discussion and a movement towards identity politics. And the stacking of the board frightens the people on the left, especially as they've probably already lost this, and this, and this. And, you know, then they have fewer of the good people, but we'll go ahead and give them more pawns, right? Because, after all, nothing is so threatening about a bunch of pawns. If you don't know how to play chess, that is, because pawns are actually a really powerful piece. Right, so the board now becomes mostly pawns, and then the journalism, you know, over here is getting skewed too, because now Alex Jones, and he was upgraded to a knight. Now he's full on his own type of journalism. So let's replace him. He's his own. We got rid of that media there. They made some new media over here. And now what you have is a whole lot of neo stuff. So you got neocons and neo-Nazis, and you got neoliberals. You got the alt-left, you got the alt-right. You've got these pieces that represent marginalized aspects of society. And they're feeling more exposed because what they sense is that on the right, these pieces no longer represent good people working the government. They represent the blunt of force. And we see this at the Dakota Access Pipeline. We see in the police, the police state. And so you see this growing movement from the right over here to control what's happening over here on the left. And the response from the left is to increase its alternative methods because it has no power to speak of. And as that happens, this side insists on a new narrative, which is if you don't fit in with this massive federal power structure that has been created, not the three-branch system, but the 12 other entities that are not regulated in Congress particularly, that no one elects these people to run the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security and the NSA. As these groups and also NGOs, lobbies, and foreign organizations such as the IMF or the World Bank, which operate within the boundaries of the U.S., these things become now new powers that insert subversively. And so maybe you have a president, but really actually who is actually running the country? And maybe you have the federal bureaucracy like the FBI or the DEA, but who's really running? It's the Pentagon. And so you have this increasing stacking, and then you have Media Matters, and you have these usually leftist watchdog groups, but sometimes they're super conservative, and they start stacking the board more and more. Now, what are you sensing when you see this? Massive power struggle. Massive power struggle and intention. That board is getting full. Now, let's be honest, I mean, as much room as there is in America, the borders are limited after all. And as these things start to incur upon each other, it becomes pretty evident that one of the sides is wanting to win. The other side wants to win too, but the tendency, the need of this side is that it must win. Right? It cannot let the Dakota Access Pipeline be stopped. It cannot let protesters over Flint water determine who is going to get clean water. That is predetermined by a series of numbers. I mean, this was all shown in the Vietnam War. It wasn't what caliber that you had and did you actually kill the enemy. It was how many enemy did you kill with outspending too much of a certain dollar. It is a completely different mentality. And I want to reinforce what I said earlier about psychotic thinkers and how they do not look at things the same. All the pawns on this side, if they still work for the government, they believe that they're doing the good of the country. They have no idea if they work for, I promise you, because I was in the NSA, they don't know what Snowden knew. Not all of them. Now, the few that do know, a good half of them are going to be interested in the power that it gives them. I mean, that's human nature, right? Power corrupts, and power corrupts absolutely. So you cannot expect that everyone is going to obey a sense of righteousness, of justice and morality, especially in, quote, antiquated morality. You can see Mark Dice interview people that want to overturn the Bill of Rights and ban the Bible and ban all sorts of books. You can find these things. You cannot expect these people, when push comes to shove and they are asked to, are they going to lose their job or stand up for what's right? You can't expect that because there is a huge amount of power surge behind them. And honestly, not much happening here. You know, this might have been your Bernie or your Ron Paul, but you know what? He had no power. And you might have some knights here that they want to come forward. They're going to be arrested. Okay? And over time, you know, oh, we're going to make a move, and somebody is going to bust up the local media. Now, you know, Alex Jones, he might come out here and might be like, I'm loud, I can do whatever, I can stop it. Nah, they're just going to take him out. Because this side cannot afford to lose. It is a matter of ego. It's a matter of history that it cannot be allowed to lose from its own perspective. Once an organization starts, they must tend to continue, even if the mission's already been accomplished. It doesn't matter if it's the NAACP or Planned Parenthood or the NRA. Once they have established what they're about, they will fight until they are gone to keep themselves relevant because they receive money, they receive livelihoods. Even if they just want to become historians, they will still fight for relevance because that is the endeavor of different ideas, right? These are viral concepts that are being plugged and shared about. And as this surges forward, and it adds more and more power and centralization, and the people start to even help it out. The people that used to be over here, that considered themselves the people, are over here, and they're advocating segregation in colleges, and they're advocating the abortion of male children. And eventually this side surges, and it becomes a matter of time only for this side to make a decision. And that decision is going to be how long do you allow this continued surging to begin. Now, the good news is the fractal math and the chaos, just the various laws of chaos, there's a reversion that can happen. Or as Tolkien liked to describe it, as the eucatastrophe, the unexpected catastrophe in your favor. These elements don't all agree with each other. And the CIA and the NSA and the National Intelligence Directorate, they don't agree 100% with each other. And some of them are cross purposes. The DEA and the CIA and the ATF, or BATF, do not really share their purpose together. And the Supreme Court and the appellate courts and the district courts do not just work 100% together. So there is some good news that there is some destabilizing ability to this. Now, where am I going with this? What does the perspicacious, knight? Here's you, because let's be honest, everybody wants to be a hero, right? So, what do you do when you see this? The first thing is you need to carve out a space for you and your loved ones, and you need to become very versed in not just survival techniques and self-defense techniques, but in legal techniques, in economic techniques, in ways of creating a buffer where you create the sure just the same way as in the old days, and you build that up in your community. Start with your family, start with your business if you have one, build yourself up, build your health up, and then guess what? People are going to start turning. They're going to say, hey, what's this I hear about alternative health? My kid, I did what they said to get vaccinated. Now my kid, their behavior changed. What's going on here? Hey, I voted for Obama. And then he betrayed the principles that I stood for. And I've decided to vote now. You could vote for Trump, but Trump is one of those is like, I'm just don't look at me, I'm just do whatever I want, well, guess what? They're going to take him out, okay? They're just going to pile on him. And it's going to be a mess. And maybe that's how that gets going. But I wouldn't be like that guy. And I wouldn't necessarily be like Alex Jones either. I think that Alex Jones is a very good person who is very, very compassionate for certain problems, but is honestly making a lot more trouble for himself. And it doesn't mean that he's not a patriot, right? He's totally being patriotic. But at the same time, what can you do if you're not prepared to play the game? And if you don't understand the game and the energies that are being directed, to stay out of the way of this mess, because obviously the scrum is where most of the bad stuff is going to happen, right? This is where everybody's going to get. There's going to be Breitbart News, and it's going to be CNN, and they're just all going to scrum together. And there's some university that's going to be dumb, and they're going to join in, and it's just going to be a mess, right? That's when you start wondering what's going to happen on the borders. And I don't mean Mexico. I mean the borders of power, which the true borders of power are really divided between, the African and Middle East areas, the European bloc, the Russian bloc, the Chinese bloc, the Indian-Pakistan kind of weird energy, the Australians who get to more or less keep to themselves. Those are the margins of where true power lays, and on those margins is where you can expect the smart movers to be doing what they do. And so you just have to be aware of it. That's all. You just have to be aware. I mean, I can't predict 100% of the future. I will share in the description below, though, the curves that I did back after the CDO meltdown, showing that this time that we're entering in now was going to be receiving heightened pressure from above and below, with us in between, whether it was inflation pressure or global warming pressure, all these pressures coming together. And what we are seeing now is just the start. And I want you to understand this. It is just the start. So take precautions and take understanding and stand for something. Of course, this is the time when It's, you know, don't just do whatever's easy. Do what's right. And so stand for something, but be smart about what you're with. And please share this information out there. I mean, I don't want to see Alex Jones get crushed. I just think it's very likely, and I think that he's going to fight the whole way. But, you know, get the message out there from the right and the left. The New World Order doesn't see the board as us versus them like that. They see it as, I own both of these. I marginalize the two against each other and control. And when I'm done, there's more left for me. Right? There's more left for me. And here I am as the New World Order. I mean, that's how, think about it. It's how, why wouldn't you control the right and left side of the election? Or, you know, why wouldn't you try to control both the foreign currency and the dollar? It just makes perfect sense. No one in their right mind, if they have as much money as Soros, would put all their eggs in one basket, like, say, in dollars or bonds. They're going to do things like, if they sense a growing threat somewhere else, they're going to take that threat out. And that's just the way it's been rolling the entire time. There's no surprise about the fake news attacks and all the lies and the revelations that, you know, they tried to take out Assange and they wanted to drone him. I mean, that's just common sense. It is the result of a natural mathematical equation that is based on underlying energy. And that underlying energy is what is going to determine what actually happens. I hope that explains, and that you'll be able to start seeing things from kind of a new perspective, no matter how the media tries to get you to say, oh, you know, I'm with these people, or, you know, and the opposite, oh, I'm with these people, and then they just fight, and they just act like a bunch of fools, and they get on TV. That is completely besides the point, and actually serves the point of the New World Order. If the hidden hand to come in and just divide and own each. And let's not forget the people who didn't even vote, which was the other third part, and a large portion of the population, 46% of the voting population, did not vote. And then we're left here arguing about which of these was better, and honestly, neither of them were any good because both of them were controlled by the hidden hand. Okay, good luck, and if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message, like, subscribe, share, and God bless.